I wanted to give you an overview of the Auckland drowning problem. So these are the latest drowning stats from Water Safety New Zealand for our region. And there were 20 drownings in 2016, 14 of which were preventable. I've already mentioned that those other 6 will include the likes of homicide, suicide, transport accidents. Our drowning rate is the 4th lowest in New Zealand, and we think that that is a remarkable achievement when we look at the population growth and when we also consider that other statistics are going up at a commensurate rate to our population increase. We can see that other parts of the country, Northland, West Coast, Waikato, have a much higher drowning rate per 100,000 population, and the Auckland drowning rate is half what the national drowning rate is. So we believe that the combined efforts of the water safety sector and the work that we're doing is making a positive contribution to that. In terms of the breakdown, there's no surprises that if you are a male, you're 4 times more likely to drown. So we follow the international trend that 80% of drownings relate to males. And in terms of the leading causes of these drownings, you can see there that most of these people didn't intend to be in the water. That's what accidental immersion means, swimming. And interestingly, this year is the first time we've seen freediving occur as a leading cause of drowning. One thing that I think is probably the most remarkable of all the stats you can see on screen at the moment is for the first time this category of other has been the leading ethnicity group, whereas in previous years that would have been New Zealand European. Now in terms of the other ethnicities you can see listed there, this basically means that we have such a diverse range of ethnicities in these drowning stats that they don't slot into either New Zealand European, Pacifica peoples, Asian or Maori, and I think that is a real nod to the fact that in terms of the strategies we need to employ, we do have a real issue as far as these New Zealanders are concerned. There's a bit of a misconception that these people are tourists. The vast majority of these people have New Zealand residency. In terms of where the incidents are occurring, the vast majority of them are occurring in our beaches, our rivers. You may have heard a media comment from Water Safety New Zealand. Is a real issue that the inland waterways and rivers are an area which certainly fall under council responsibility, but don't have the likes of, for example, lifeguards patrolling the beaches, and most of our mitigation strategies there tend to be around things like signage and restricting access. So we have a lot of work to do in the river space in terms of educating the public there. In terms of our goals, from a strategic perspective, I've already mentioned that it is our role, we believe, to lead drowning prevention efforts within the region. I would like to touch on research. The Water Safe Auckland office has more research publications than any other agency in the world in drowning prevention. So we provide world leadership academic research. This research is published in academic journals. It guides policy and drowning prevention measures, not just regionally or nationally, but around the globe. And the programs that we deliver are evaluated to a standard whereby we can actually publish those results in academic journals. In terms of our role in the education sector, we have registered teachers on staff. They work from early childhood right through to tertiary, and they provide professional support to teachers. The model that we use is a train the trainer. We do have direct delivery programs, but we think that in terms of spreading those water safety messages, the way that we do that is by empowering others. Our advocacy role, probably the most recent example with that would be in relation to the pool fencing legislation. So we've coordinated special groups. We worked closely with council pool inspectors to make submissions around that, and that's something that we're monitoring very closely because we still have some very serious concerns around some of the acceptable solutions that have been brought in around the pool fencing. In terms of sustainability, Sandy would have said last year that was a new goal for us strategically. Obviously, we are heavily reliant on the RAFA funding. We're very grateful for that level of funding, but we have a strong mandate from our board to decrease our reliance on that funding. We do have the issue that we're not in the position of being able to charge membership subscriptions, to sell tickets or to bill government agencies for our services. We are an education provider, so in very simple terms, without our array for funding, we wouldn't exist. That is not to say, however, that we're not trying very hard to source commercial sponsorship, and we're looking at social enterprise in terms of partnering with schools, pool operators, to look at a venture to run a commercial swim school. We believe that's the way to sustain our operation. Also provides us with a venue for our water safety lessons, because currently we pay for lane hireage in order to do that. How do we do that? Well, we have 3 channels of engagement. The first one is community, so we have a variety of programs. We have everything from life jacket hubs, where we go into maraes, local groups, and we provide them through funding grants life jackets, which they then loan out to members of their community. On the slide there, this is our rock fishing safety program. That's a joint program with council rangers and surf life saving that's been running for the last 10 years on the west coast of Auckland. Over the last 10 years, it took life jacket wearing from 3% to over 50%, which is unheard of worldwide. You may be aware that in New South Wales they've just passed legislation to mandate wearing of life jackets. However, this year is the first year that the wearing of life jackets has decreased, so that's a real concern to us. In the workplace, we have some commercial courses. Here you can see staff from Watercare, and they come in and do training in water safety. We also go into workplaces because we know that for a number of communities who work together, they also recreate together as well. And our third channel of engagement, as I mentioned before, is in the formal education sector. So this is from early childhood right through to pre-service tertiary teachers. In this slide here, we've just accredited Patamahoe Primary School as a water safe school community. So they have to meet a number of criteria in order to receive that accreditation from us. Just one quick case study I wanted to finish on, and there was a rock fisherman who was swept off Camel Rock at Piha middle of last year. This gentleman went to Piha with a friend. He was wearing a life jacket. He got into difficulty. His friend was able to throw a life ring, which was installed by council and Surf Life Saving, off Camel Rock to that gentleman. He floated out at sea. The rescue helicopter came. They dropped a paramedic. Surf Life Savers were able to retrieve him back to the beach. After 30 minutes in the surf club of warming up, he was able to shake the hands of the rescue crew and drive home. And that's a real success story in terms of these drowning prevention measures. So, in summary, we believe that the cost to society for every drowning or non-fatal drowning is extremely high. In fact, those figures have just been calculated by Water Safety New Zealand, Statistics New Zealand and Land Transport Safety to compare them to road fatalities, and we estimate the cost of every drowning to be close to $4 million. And if we compare that to the lives lost last year for the $1 million investment that we receive through council, we believe that there's still more work to be done, but that represents extremely good value for money. The other thing, which is just something we're getting to terms with, are the non-fatal drownings, and these are on the rise. We're not sure why they're on the rise. Is there better reporting? Is there a lower threshold to transport people through to hospital? But there is still a large cost to the non-fatal drownings, approximately $400,000 per hospitalisation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Councillor Simpson.
Thank you, Jonathan, through the chair. Thank you. I'm particularly pleased that you haven't got any change for the next year in the funding. That's very good. But you talked about the drownings in the sea, in rivers and waterways, but you didn't talk about the number of drownings in swimming pools. Do you have any statistics on that? And how's that tracking? Is it going, hopefully it's going down, but
Yeah, so I think there's two aspects of swimming pools that we want to comment on. Firstly, domestic ones, and also the likes of council facilities. We've been working very closely with the media in terms of the correct reporting of these incidents. So there was an incident at Glen Innes Pool just a couple of weeks ago, and the normal way the media would report that was that there was a drowning at the Glen Innes Pool. Now, that person could have had a medical event, they could have had a heart attack, they could have collapsed poolside. So we think think that there's been an overstating of the number of actual drownings in public pools, and the media are getting better with that. So, you know, on average per year in this city, there might be half a dozen deaths at facilities. The number of those that are drowning, I would say, would be 0 to 1. In terms of the domestic pools, we've done very well, and I think that's why we're so concerned about the new legislation around pool fencing, that we really have got on top of those toddler drownings, where, you know, in some years we have no drownings at all. But we're very concerned that, you know, measures like alarms on doors, which have to be hardwired, but I'm sure eventually when they start ringing are going to annoy people and be disconnected, or people are going to be out of earshot, are going to have a very negative consequence on the toddler drowning. And I guess we just have to wait and see as to whether or not those measures are going to be effective or not.
So can I just ask one more question? Would you report then, please, on the pool drownings in next time? Because you didn't.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
And behind.
Thank you for your report. Do you have any statistics on the number of drownings that are non-residents to New Zealand?
So we rely on Water Safety New Zealand for our drowning data. The short answer to that is no, because other agencies like Surf Life Saving, Coast Guard, Police collect that. But one of the things that we've asked Water Safety New Zealand to do is to improve the breakdown of those statistics. So, for example, for the Kuiper tragedy, you know, those deaths were attributed to Northland just because of the way that Water Safety New Zealand has its geographical boundaries. So we are asking them to make them more relevant to the boundaries of this city, so we can accurately report back to you, but also to improve the data collection on site. I mentioned before there is a perception that, you know, the drowning problem is all about recent immigrants. I think that is starting to become true, but in previous years, quite clearly, it's been older New Zealand European males who've been the bulk of our drownings.
Yeah, I think you've got all the demographics of the ethnicity of everyone, but because they're Māori, might be a Māori from Sydney that's actually is an Australian now.
Yes.
$4 million is a significant number. Why we need to know that stat. Kia ora.
Councillor Collins.
Yeah. Hi, I'm just interested in the ethnicity breakdown, and you talked about New Zealanders, and I'm just wondering what steps are being taken to firstly unpack some of that, who fits into other, and what educational kind of steps can be taken within your remit to be able to work with those communities.
Yeah, so I think at a fairly high level, in terms of, you know, what information we provide to New Zealanders, that possibly in regards to access to our waterways, there's a lot that we could do to improve that. I mean, certainly we know from, for example, Pacifica people who come from water nations, that to then, you know, be rock fishing or flat rock at Murawai or swimming at Piha is very different to the type of water that they are used to. So I think in terms of, you know, us being the most livable city, we have to acknowledge that access to our waterways is abundant, and that we provide a lot of promotional material to encourage people to go to our beaches and to recreate. What we don't provide on the other side necessarily is the education around the dangers of our waterways. So, you know, we work with new migrant groups, so we provide presentations at the Immigration Centre at Mangere. We have a long-established Muslim women's swimming program at the Cameron Pool. So there's programs like that, but our reach is 5 full-time educators in collaboration with other agencies like Piha, the Pacific Injury Prevention and the like. So there's only so much that we can do. But I think the analogy that I always use is, you know, places like Surfers Paradise, if they had, you know, people drowning left, right and centre on their beaches, they certainly wouldn't have the tourist income. But when you stay in a motel in Surfers Paradise, there's a little card which tells you what the signs on the beach means. When you arrive in the customs hall, there's red and yellow flags which, you know, direct you to swim between the flags if you go into the beach. So I think in a positive way, you know, there's ways that we can get the water safety message across without it being the doom and gloom, and you know, we've got really bad drowning stats.
Thank you. Councillor Casey.
No, it'd just be nice, thanks.
Oh, it's been nice. Thank you very much, Jonathan. Thank you. Stuart. New Zealand Opera.
Mr. Chair.